All he kept saying was, I know she's dead, I know she's dead. And that was it. And then he went outside with him till the cops came.
Did he describe what it looked like in there?
He said it was horrible.
He said it was horrible. Her face was all full of blood and bruised, banged up and whatnot. The place was a mess.
No one thought this case could be solved until new evidence shocked investigators. For over a quarter of a century, the brutal murder of a beloved sixth-grade teacher lingered in the shadows of a quiet Pennsylvania town, a puzzle that seemed destined to remain unfinished. Leads came and went, suspects were cleared one by one, and a grieving family watched as time slipped away without answers. But in the end, it wasn't a dramatic confession or a hidden witness that cracked the case wide open. It was a simple piece of discarded chewing gum combined with the cutting-edge power of genetic genealogy that finally pointed to a killer who had been hiding in plain sight all along. This is the story of Christy Mirack, a young woman whose life was cut short just days before Christmas, and the long, winding path to justice that exposed a monster masquerading as a community favorite. Welcome to Dark Case Desk, where we delve into the darkest corners of true crime to uncover the truths that refuse to stay buried. Before we dive deeper into this haunting tale, if you're new here, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss an episode. Your support keeps these stories alive and helps us bring more forgotten cases to light. Let's begin at the heart of the mystery on a cold December morning in 1992, when everything changed for a small school community in Lancaster County, Pennsylvania. It was the 21st of December, a Monday, with the holiday break just around the corner. The air was crisp, laced with the promise of festive cheer, but at Rohrerstown Elementary School, an unusual silence hung over one particular classroom. Christy Mirack, the dedicated sixth-grade teacher known for her unwavering punctuality, was nowhere to be found. Her students milled about, waiting for the day to start. But as the minutes ticked by, it became clear something was amiss. Harry Goodman, the school's principal, noticed the absence immediately. Christy wasn't the type to be late, ever. She was always there, bright and early, ready to greet her class with that infectious smile her colleagues often spoke of. Concerned, Harry picked up the phone and dialed her home number. Once, twice, 3 times, 5 calls in total, each one rolling over to her answering machine without a response. His worry deepened with every unanswered ring. Knowing Christy had no immediate family in the area, he decided to reach out to her mother back in Shamokin, a town about 85 miles away. The conversation was short but alarming. Her mother confirmed that this behavior was completely out of character for Christy. She would never miss work without calling in. With no other options, Harry made a quick decision. He would drive to her condominium in East Lampeter Township himself to check on her. It was a gesture born of genuine concern, the kind that speaks to the close-knit nature of small-town school staffs. Arriving at the complex shortly after 9 a.m., Harry pulled up and immediately spotted Christy's car in the driveway. The windows were coated in a thick layer of ice, untouched and unmelted, suggesting it hadn't been driven that morning. That detail alone sent a chill down his spine, unrelated to the winter weather. Approaching the front door, he noticed it wasn't fully closed. It stood slightly ajar, as if someone had left in a hurry or perhaps hadn't bothered to latch it properly. Hesitant but driven by worry, Harry pushed the door open and stepped inside. The interior was eerily still, the kind of quiet that feels heavy and unnatural. He called out her name, his voice echoing softly off the walls, but there was no reply. Moving further into the living room, his eyes adjusted to the dim light, and that's when he saw it. Christy's body lying motionless on the floor to the right of the entrance. The sight was horrific, one that would etch itself into his memory forever. Her face was battered, covered in blood and bruises, her body positioned in a way that screamed violence. The room itself was in disarray, signs of a struggle evident everywhere. Overwhelmed by shock and horror, Harry bolted from the house, pounding on the doors of neighboring units until someone finally answered. Gasping for breath, he begged to use their phone and dialed 911. Within minutes, 6 to be precise, police cruisers screeched to a halt outside the complex, their lights flashing against the frosty morning. The responding officers entered the scene with caution, securing the area as they assessed the grim reality. Christy lay on the living room carpet, her lower body nude except for her socks, while her sweater and t-shirt had been pulled up, exposing her chest. Deep contusions ringed her neck, pointing to strangulation as a likely cause of death. Her facial injuries were severe, suggesting a vicious beating. There were no immediate signs of forced entry at the front door, but the evidence of a fight was unmistakable. Scratches marred the floor, the door frame, and the door itself, telling a story of desperate resistance. Nearby on the carpet close to her head, investigators noted a wooden cutting board with a toaster resting atop it. Later forensic tests would reveal that the cutting board had been wielded as a blunt force weapon, used to inflict the blows that shattered her jaw and bruised her skull. Bodily fluids stained the carpet beneath her, a crucial piece of evidence that detectives carefully excised and sent to the state police lab, along with her clothing for analysis. The possibility of sexual assault loomed large, given the state of her body and the scene's disarray. As the crime scene technicians worked methodically, preserving every detail, detectives fanned out to canvass the neighborhood. Door-to-door inquiries yielded a few key observations. One neighbor, a woman who had been walking her dog around 7:15 that morning, recalled seeing a white car parked across from Christy's home. She described it as resembling a Dodge Daytona, complete with black louvers over the rear window, a distinctive feature that stuck in her mind. From the vehicle emerged a white, muscular man with dark hair who walked purposefully toward Christy's door. This sighting would become a cornerstone of the early investigation, a potential glimpse of the intruder. Further piecing together the timeline, police learned from Christy's roommate that she had left for work at 7 a.m., her usual routine. Shortly after, around 7:15, the roommate had chatted briefly with the dog-walking neighbor outside. During their conversation, both women heard a loud, high-pitched scream emanating from the direction of Christy's residence. At the time, they hadn't been sure it was from her unit, dismissing it perhaps as a television or something innocuous. But in hindsight, it was chillingly probable that it was Christy's final cry for help. Knowing Christy typically departed for school between 7:30 and 7:45, investigators theorized the killer had struck in that narrow window when she was alone, exploiting the brief solitude. By 11 a.m., the gravity of the situation demanded that the Mirack family be notified. Vince, Christy's brother, and their mother were still in Shamokin, facing a 2-hour drive to Lancaster. To spare them the full horror over the phone, detectives kept it vague. Christy had been in an accident, they said, and the family needed to come immediately. The call was cryptic, fueling a torrent of unspoken fears as they hit the road. Was she hurt badly? In the hospital? Why the urgency without details? Vince would later describe that drive as an eternity of dread, the miles stretching endlessly as questions swirled in the silence of the car. Upon arrival, the truth crashed down. No accident, but murder. The revelation was shattering, a moment that divided their lives into before and after. They were offered the chance to view her body, but under strict protocols. No touching, no embraces. Standing mere steps away, her mother instinctively reached out, only to be gently restrained by an officer. In that restrained gesture lay the cruel finality. Christy was gone, transformed from beloved daughter to evidence in a case. For Vince, witnessing his mother's quiet devastation in that room would haunt him, a poignant emblem of their loss. The investigation pressed on amid the family's grief. On the 22nd of December, the day after the body's discovery, an unexpected visitor arrived at Rohrerstown Elementary asking for Christy. The staff, already reeling from the news that had dominated local headlines, found his apparent ignorance unsettling. While one employee engaged him in talk, another slipped away to call the police. Officers arrived swiftly, identifying the man as Daniel Gwaltney. Wait, no. The transcript says Daniel Dario. But I think it's Daniel Gwaltney. Wait, checking back. Oh, it's Daniel Dario in the original. Let's correct that to match. Daniel Dario. He was a married man nearly 20 years older than Christy, and as questioning unfolded at the station, a hidden facet of her life emerged. They had been in a discreet 2-year relationship, so secret that even her family knew nothing of it. Daniel explained they met at a bar, but she had ended things on the 19th of December, seeking a traditional future with marriage and children. things he couldn't offer due to his existing marriage. He claimed his visit to the school stemmed from worry over her unanswered calls. Suspicion naturally fell on him, but his alibi held firm. He was relocating to Virginia that morning, handling paperwork at a government office for his license and registration. Timestamps confirmed his story, a polygraph test came back clean, and his DNA sample didn't match the crime scene fluids. Cleared, the case shifted elsewhere. Meanwhile, the autopsy conducted by Dr. Wayne Ross painted a stark picture of the attack's ferocity. Christy's jaw was fractured, her face, back and head bore extensive blunt trauma. Ligature marks on her neck confirmed strangulation as the cause of death, and biological evidence substantiated sexual assault. Samples were collected to build a DNA profile of the perpetrator, but in 1992, the FBI's database was nascent, limited to convicted offenders from just 12 states. No match emerged. The profile was that of an unknown male, a ghost in the system. Frustrated, detectives circled back to Harry Goodman, the last to see her alive in a sense. On the 23rd, he was called in for fingerprinting and interrogation. The tone turned accusatory. Questions about his relationship with Christy, if he found her attractive, any physical involvement. Harry maintained they were colleagues, nothing more, explaining his house visit as concern for a reliable employee with no local support. He passed a polygraph, and with no linking evidence, was dismissed. By the 26th, Christie's funeral in Shamokin drew a crowd of mourners, a somber farewell amid the holidays. The police, meanwhile, expanded their net, interviewing over 500 people by March 1993. Reports surfaced of a stalker in East Lampeter Township around the time, fueling hopes of connecting to the white car witness, but leads fizzled. By 1995, interviews topped 1,500, with 60 suspects vetted and cleared. The case cooled, the DNA profile dormant, the family left in limbo. As years passed, the initial rush of tips slowed to nothing, and by the mid-1990s, Christie's murder was labeled cold. Yet Vince kept the flame alive, calling investigators regularly for updates, ensuring her name wasn't forgotten in the files. Parallel to this, their mother battled recurring cancer, the unsolved crime compounding her suffering. Remissions came and went, but the lack of closure gnawed at her. In December 2002, 10 years post-murder, she succumbed. Her last words to Vince a plea: never stop seeking justice. She died without knowing the killer's name, a tragedy Vince shared in a local newspaper interview, highlighting how the stagnation had deepened their pain. Vince's resolve hardened. By 2007, 15 years on, the case needed revival. Teaming with the family of another unsolved victim, Linda Bittler, they erected a billboard on a major Lancaster highway. It displayed the women's photos with the stark query, "Do you know who killed us?" Contact details below aimed to jog memories or guilt. Tips surged, but again, no breakthroughs. In Lancaster, suspicion simmered. The killer likely local, not a drifter, blending seamlessly into daily life. Indeed, for over 20 years, the perpetrator lived among them, his DNA unmatched in outdated systems. Change came in October 2015, 23 years later, when the Lancaster County District Attorney's Office, under Christine Wilson, a high schooler at the time of the crime, took over. Wilson, long invested, saw potential in revisiting the 1992 forensics with modern tech. Detectives, fresh from a conference on DNA phenotyping, partnered with Parabon Nanolab's Snapshot program. It predicted traits from genetic markers, skin, eye, hair color, facial structure, ancestry. Submitted samples yielded composites, aged to 45 to 55, assuming the killer's age proximity to Christie's or older, given her past relationship. Shown privately to family and acquaintances, no recognition. On November 1, 2017, a press conference released the images publicly, seeking tips. Coverage was wide, but no immediate leads. The turning point arrived April 25, 2018. Vince, watching news of the Golden State Killer's capture via GED-matched genealogy, emailed investigators about applying it to Christie's case. They were ahead. Parabon offered genetic genealogy services. The crime scene DNA uploaded to Getty matched not the suspect, but cousins. Genealogist C.C. Moore built a reverse family tree, pinpointing a Lancaster family with Eastern European roots. Phenotyping hinted at Puerto Rican ancestry, leading Moore to a newspaper article on a local man loving Puerto Rican cuisine, his father from the island. The man, Raymond Charles Rowe, a.k.a. DJ Freeze, a popular wedding and club DJ. A half-sister's GED match profile confirmed the genetic link. For 26 years, Rowe had stayed in Lancaster, building fame as DJ Freeze, no criminal record, keeping his DNA out of databases. In 1992, 23 or 24, he lived 4 miles from Christy, frequenting her night spots, though no known connection. To solidify, a fresh DNA sample was needed covertly. On May 31, 2018, surveillance at a school event where Rowe DJ'd. An undercover officer chatted, then retrieved his discarded water bottle, cup, and chewing gum from trash. Lab tests, perfect match to crime scene. June 25th, interrogation. Rowe denied involvement, but Tenstedt stalker mentions, admitting a white Toyota Celica in 1992, similar to the witness car. Theory, obsession led to stalking, timing the attack post-roommate's departure. Arrested, charged with homicide January 8, 2019. Pleading guilty to murder, sexual abuse, burglary to avoid death penalty, sentenced to life without parole plus 60 to 120 years. No motive stated. Peace for the Miracks, but in November 2020, Rowe petitioned to overturn, claiming innocence, coerced plea amid health issues, alleging consensual encounter with Christy before another's kill. Requested retesting evidence. April 2022, Judge Dennis Reinecker denied, evidence totality precluded innocence. Thanks for joining Dark Case Desk. Like, comment your thoughts, subscribe for more. Where are you watching from? Share below. It connects us in remembering these stories. As the echoes of that courtroom denial faded into the annals of legal history, the community of Lancaster, Pennsylvania, began to grapple with the reality that a man they had celebrated at weddings and parties for decades was capable of such unspeakable evil. But to truly comprehend the depth of this betrayal, we must rewind the clock, delving deeper into the life of the victim whose light was so brutally extinguished. This is Dark Case Desk, where we peel back the layers of true crime's most perplexing puzzles. If you're finding value in this detailed exploration, smash that like button, drop a comment with your thoughts on how technology changed this case, and subscribe for more in-depth narratives that bring justice to the forefront. Now let's journey back to the roots of Christy Mirack, a woman whose story is as inspiring as it is tragic. Born on the 3rd of November in 1967, in the quaint mountain-hugged town of Shamokin, nestled in Northumberland County, Pennsylvania, Christy entered the world as the middle child in a tight-knit family of 3 siblings. Shamokin, in those late 1960s, was a place steeped in the traditions of coal country, where the rolling hills and dense forests provided a backdrop of natural beauty, but the economy often relied on the grit of mining families. The Mirack household was no exception, a modest home filled with the sounds of laughter, sibling rivalries, and the unwavering support of parents who instilled values of hard work and kindness. Christy's brother Vince would later reflect on her as the family's spark, a girl with an iron-willed stubbornness that could move mountains, paired with an infectious kindness that drew people in like moths to a flame. She wasn't just another child in the mix. She was the one who orchestrated games, resolved disputes with a clever joke, and always seemed to know how to brighten a room. From her earliest days, Christy's ambition burned brightly. While other kids dreamed of becoming astronauts or movie stars, she harbored a singular, unwavering passion to become a teacher. This wasn't a fleeting fancy born of schoolyard play. It was a calling etched into her very being. In the living room of their Shamokin home, amid the worn furniture and family photos, Christy would transform the space into a makeshift classroom. Her siblings became her reluctant students, sitting cross-legged on the carpet as she stood at the front, chalk in hand on an imaginary blackboard, delivering lessons with the seriousness of a seasoned educator. She assigned homework, simple tasks like drawing pictures or reciting poems, and graded them with stars and encouraging notes. These role plays weren't just games, they were rehearsals for the life she envisioned, a foreshadowing of the dedication that would define her professional path. Her parents encouraged this dream, seeing in her a natural affinity for nurturing young minds. And they supported her through the small-town schooling system where everyone knew everyone else's business. Shamokin in the 1970s and 80s was a community where security came from familiarity. Neighbors watched out for one another's children, doors were often left unlocked, and the rhythm of life moved to the tune of church bells and school bells. Christy thrived in this environment, excelling in her studies at Shamokin Area High School. She was the type of student teachers remembered fondly, diligent, curious, and always ready with a helping hand. Her report cards were dotted with high marks, but more than academics, it was her interpersonal skills that shone. Friends recalled her as the peacemaker in group projects, the one who could diffuse tension with humor or empathy. By the time she graduated in 1985, her path was clear. She would pursue a degree in primary education. Leaving the comfort of Shamokin behind, she enrolled at Millersville University, a public institution about 85 miles away in the heart of Lancaster County. The move was a big step for a girl from a small town, but Christy's determination carried her through. Millersville University, founded in the mid-19th century as a normal school for teacher training, offered Christy the perfect environment to hone her skills. The campus, with its historic buildings and sprawling green lawns, buzzed with the energy of aspiring educators. She immersed herself in coursework on child psychology, curriculum development, and classroom management, all while forming bonds with classmates who shared her passion. Professors noted her enthusiasm. She wasn't just there to earn a degree, she was there to absorb every nuance of the teaching profession. Weekends might find her volunteering at local schools or tutoring younger students, building the practical experience that would set her apart. By the time she graduated, diploma in hand, Christy was ready to step into her dream role. In 1992, at the age of 25, she secured a position as a sixth-grade teacher at Rohrerstown Elementary School in Lancaster County. The school, a cornerstone of the community, served children from diverse backgrounds, and Christy fit right in. Her principal, Harry Goodman, described her as having an innate synchrony with her students, a natural ability to connect, inspire, and educate. Life in Lancaster County suited Christy well. The area, known for its Amish farmlands, rolling hills, and historic charm, provided a peaceful contrast to the industrial feel of Shamokin. She settled into a condominium in East Lampeter Township, sharing it with a roommate for companionship and practicality. Her days were filled with the joys of teaching, planning lessons on history and science, grading papers late into the evening, and preparing special activities for her class. Colleagues remembered her as obsessively punctual, always the first to arrive and the last to leave staff meetings. She brought creativity to her classroom, incorporating hands-on projects and storytelling to make learning engaging. Parents appreciated her dedication. Students adored her warmth. Outside of work, Christy enjoyed the social scene, nights out at local bars and nightclubs, where she could unwind with friends over music and laughter. It was in one such venue that she met Daniel Dario, sparking a relationship that remained hidden from her family, a private chapter in an otherwise open life. As the winter of 1992 approached, the school hummed with holiday anticipation. Decorations adorned the hallways, and students chattered about upcoming breaks. December 21st was just another Monday, 2 days before the winter recess, but for Christy, it promised to be routine. She had wrapped gifts for her students, small tokens of appreciation, and was likely thinking ahead to family time back in Shamokin. Her roommate departed at 7 a.m., as usual, leaving Christy to her morning preparations. The condominium complex was quiet, the frost clinging to windows and cars, the world outside still waking up. What happened next shattered that tranquility forever. Harry Goodman's concern mounted as the school day began without Christy. The classroom stood empty, students confused, the routine disrupted. After those 5 unanswered calls to her home and the alarming chat with her mother, Harry made the drive to her residence. The iced-over car in the driveway was the first red flag, a silent sentinel indicating she hadn't left. The ajar door amplified his unease. Stepping inside, the stillness was oppressive. the air thick with an indefinable wrongness. His calls for her name went unanswered, and as he ventured into the living room, the horror unfolded. Christy's body on the carpet, battered and exposed, the room bearing the scars of violence. The principal's reaction was visceral, fleeing to summon help. His knocks on neighbors' doors frantic, his 911 call a blur of panic. Police arrived swiftly, transforming the home into a crime scene taped off from the curious eyes of onlookers. The officer's initial assessment painted a picture of savagery. Christy, partially unclothed, bore the marks of a ferocious assault. Deep bruises on her neck from strangulation, facial injuries from blunt force. The struggle had been intense, evidenced by the scratches on surfaces, the disarray of furniture. The wooden cutting board and toaster nearby hinted at improvised weapons, later confirmed through forensics. Bodily fluids on the carpet suggested sexual assault, samples meticulously collected for analysis. The lack of forced entry raised questions. Did she know her attacker? Had he been let in or slipped through an oversight? Neighbors' accounts added layers. The white car sighting at 7:15, the muscular man with dark hair approaching her door, the scream heard by the roommate and dog walker, dismissed at the time, but now ominous. The timeline narrowed the window to mere minutes, pointing to a calculated strike. As news spread, the Mirack family endured that agonizing drive from Shamokin, the vague accident report fueling dread. Arrival brought the crushing truth, the viewing a sterile farewell devoid of touch. Vince's memory of his mother's restrained reach encapsulated the family's raw grief. The funeral on December 26 drew hundreds, a testament to Christie's impact. But for investigators, the work intensified. Daniel Dario's appearance at the school the next day raised eyebrows. His ignorance of the news seemed odd, leading to his detention and questioning. The revelation of their 2-year affair stunned the family. Christie's private life had depths they hadn't known. His alibi, relocating to Virginia, documented paperwork, held, bolstered by a past polygraph and non-matching DNA. Cleared, suspicion shifted. The autopsy by Dr. Wayne Ross detailed the brutality. Fractured jaw, extensive trauma, strangulation definitive. Sexual assault confirmed, DNA profiled but unmatched in the nascent FBI database. Harry Goodman faced scrutiny next, his house visit questioned as overly personal. His consistent denials, past polygraph, and lack of evidence exonerated him. Interviews ballooned to over 500 by March 1993, uncovering stalker reports in the area. Hopes tied to the white car description, but leads evaporated. By 1995, 1,500 interviews, 60 suspects cleared. The case cooled, files gathering dust, but Vince's persistent calls kept it alive. The family's private torment deepened with their mother's cancer battle. The unsolved murder, a constant shadow. Her death in 2002, plea to Vince echoing. The billboard in 2007 with Linda Bittler's family stirred tips, but no resolution. Suspicion lingered in Lancaster, that the killer walked among them. In 2015, District Attorney Christine Wilson's office revived the case, leveraging Parabon Nanolabs phenotyping. Composites aged and released in 2017 yielded nothing immediate. Then the Golden State Killer's capture inspired genetic genealogy, GED matches to cousins, reverse tree building, Puerto Rican link via newspaper article, pointing to Raymond Charles Rowe, DJ Freeze, surveillance, discarded gum DNA match, interrogation, car admission, arrest, guilty plea, life sentence, petition denial in 2022. But let's pause here to reflect on the technological miracle that brought closure. Genetic genealogy, a tool born from curiosity about ancestry, became a sword of justice. In this case, it unraveled 26 years of mystery, exposing a man who had danced at celebrations while hiding darkness. As we delve further, consider the emotional toll on those left behind. Vince Mirack, carrying his mother's wish, became the family's anchor. His emails to investigators, his public pleas, his unwavering faith that answers would come. The community, too, wrestled with betrayal. How could DJ Freeze, the life of the party, be this monster? Expanding on Rowe's life, born around 1968 or 69, Puerto Rican descent through his father, he built a career in Lancaster's entertainment scene. House parties to weddings, his beat soundtrack joys while his secret festered. No prior record, no red flags. The perfect camouflage. The sting operations details. The undercover officer's casual chat at the school event. The careful retrieval of trash items. Lab confirmation, a 100% match, sealing fate. Rowe's denial shifted to plea, avoiding death row. His later recantation, claims of coercion and consensual encounter, dismissed by Judge Reinecker as baseless. This case highlights forensics evolution, from 1992's limited databases to 2018's genealogy breakthroughs. For the Miracks, justice bittersweet, without their mother to witness. Thanks for tuning into this segment on Dark Case Desk. Comment your location. Let's see how far this story resonates. Like if you're hooked, subscribe for more. As the weight of Raymond Rowe's denied petition settled over the courtroom in April 2022, it marked not just the end of a legal chapter, but a profound moment of reckoning for everyone touched by Christy Mirack's story. The man who had once spun records to the delight of wedding guests and nightclub crowds would spend the rest of his days behind bars, his facade of normalcy shattered by science and persistence. Yet, to fully grasp the enormity of this case, we must explore the intricate web of forensic advancements that turned a cold trail hot, the emotional undercurrents that sustained a family's fight, and the subtle clues that, in hindsight, painted a portrait of a predator in plain view. This is Dark Case Desk, your gateway to the shadows of unsolved mysteries brought into the light. If this deep dive into deception and discovery has you riveted, give this video a thumbs up, share your reactions in the comments, perhaps what surprises you most about the role of DNA in modern justice, and subscribe to join our community of truth seekers. Let's continue unraveling the threads that bound this case for so long. In the aftermath of Rowe's sentencing, questions lingered about the man himself, a figure who had evaded suspicion through a carefully curated life of charisma and community involvement. Raymond Charles Rowe, born in the late 1960s to a father who had emigrated from Puerto Rico, grew up in a world that blended cultural heritages, Eastern European roots from one side, vibrant Latin influences from the other. This mix perhaps contributed to his outgoing personality, the kind that thrives in the spotlight. By his early 20s in the bustling scene of Lancaster's nightlife, Rowe had found his niche as a DJ, starting small with house parties where his mixes of hip-hop, dance, and Latin beats drew crowds. He adopted the moniker DJ Freeze, a name that evoked cool confidence, and over the years he built a reputation as the go-to entertainer for celebrations. Weddings were his bread and butter. Couples hired him to keep the dance floor alive, his playlists syncing perfectly with the joy of the occasion. Nightclubs welcomed him for his ability to read the room, ramping up the energy or slowing it down as needed. To those who knew him, Rowe was affable, reliable, a guy who showed up on time, delivered a great set, and left with smiles all around. No one suspected the darkness lurking beneath that polished exterior. What drove Rowe to target Christy Mirack remains an enigma he has never fully explained. Investigators theorized obsession, pieced together from circumstantial threads. In 1992, at 23 or 24 years old, Rowe lived a mere 4 miles from her condominium, a distance that could be covered in minutes. The nightclubs where he performed were the same ones Christy frequented, places like lively bars with pulsing music and dim lights, where chance encounters could spark fleeting connections. Though no direct link was ever documented, no mutual friends recalling introductions, no shared events pinpointed, the proximity suggested opportunity. Perhaps he spotted her across a crowded dance floor, her laughter cutting through the bass, her kindness drawing him in. Or maybe it was a brief conversation at the bar, words exchanged over drinks that lingered in his mind. Whatever the spark, the police believed it escalated to stalking. He would have observed her routines, noting the roommate's 7 a.m. departure, the window when Christy prepared for her teaching day alone. The white Toyota Celica he admitted owning matched the neighbor's description of the suspicious vehicle, a detail that, in interrogation, made him defensive, his composure cracking just enough to reveal unease. The attack itself, reconstructed through evidence, unfolded with chilling precision. On that December 21st morning, as frost blanketed the complex, the intruder approached after the roommate left. The ajar door later found by Harry Goodman might have been left that way in haste, or perhaps Christy opened it, thinking it was a neighbor. The struggle began at the entrance, her screams piercing the air, heard but not heeded by those outside. Scratches on the door frame and floor spoke of her fight, a desperate bid to escape or fend off. The killer, muscular and determined, overpowered her, dragging the confrontation into the living room. There, the wooden cutting board from the kitchen became a weapon, swung with force to batter her face and head, fracturing her jaw in the process. The toaster, perhaps grabbed in the melee, added to the chaos. Strangulation followed, deep contusions from hands or a ligature ending her life. The sexual assault, confirmed by autopsy, added a layer of violation to the brutality. Bodily fluids left on the carpet would become the silent witness, preserved in evidence bags, waiting for technology to give them voice. In the immediate days following, as police processed the scene, the community's shock rippled outward. Lancaster County, a place of Amish buggies and fertile fields, wasn't accustomed to such violence intruding on its quiet rhythm. Rohrerstown Elementary became a focal point of grief. Students too young to fully comprehend asked why their teacher wouldn't return, while staff held hushed conversations in the halls. Harry Goodman, haunted by the discovery, sought therapy for the nightmares that replayed the scene. Her bloodied face, the disarrayed room. He described it to investigators as horrible, a word that barely captured the trauma. Parents pulled children closer, locks were double-checked, and the local news cycled stories of safety tips, though the killer's identity remained elusive. The Mirack family's pain was private, yet profound. Back in Shamokin, the 2-hour drive home after viewing Christy's body was another silence-filled ordeal, the reality sinking in like lead. Vince, as the brother, shouldered much of the burden, coordinating with police while supporting his mother through waves of sorrow. Her cancer diagnosis, coming amid the grief, intertwined illness with injustice. Treatments in hospitals became backdrops for discussions of leads. Her remissions, fleeting respites, where hope flickered. Vince's regular calls to detectives weren't just inquiries. They were lifelines, reminders that the case mattered. When she passed in 2002, her final request to him, never give up, became a vow, one he honored through public appeals and quiet determination. As the case stagnated in the mid-1990s, the investigative landscape evolved slowly. DNA technology, revolutionary yet rudimentary, offered promise but delivered frustration. The profile from the carpet fluid sat in the FBI's Combined DNA Index System, or CODIS, which by then included only a fraction of potential matches. No hits meant the perpetrator wasn't a convicted offender in the database's limited scope. Detectives pursued other angles. The stalker reports from East Lampeter Township involved anonymous calls and lurking figures, but connections to Christy proved tenuous. The white car lead prompted checks on similar vehicles, but without plates or clearer descriptions, it dead-ended. Polygraphs cleared suspects like Daniel Dario and Harry Goodman, but suspicions sometimes lingered in public whispers, unfair shadows on innocent lives. By the turn of the millennium, the file gathered dust, but external events kept it in peripheral view. Vince's interview with Lancaster Online after his mother's death humanized the toll, prompting a smattering of tips. The 2007 billboard, a collaborative effort with Linda Bittler's family, stood as a sentinel on the highway, its haunting question, "Do you know who killed us?" staring down at commuters. Photos of the two women, young and vibrant, evoked empathy. Calls came in, some earnest, others crank. Investigators chased them, re-interviewing old witnesses, but the puzzle pieces didn't fit. In Lancaster, the unsolved status bred unease, a collective wariness at gatherings, wondering if the smiling face next to you hid secrets. Rowe, meanwhile, thrived. His DJ career peaked, social media posts, in later years, showcasing events, his life a montage of lights and music. The revival in 2015 under District Attorney Christine Wilson injected fresh energy. Wilson, who remembered the headlines from her high school days, viewed the case through a lens of personal investment. Her office's detectives, inspired by a conference on emerging forensics, turned to Parabon nanolabs. The snapshot phenotyping analyzed thousands of genetic markers, predicting the suspect's fair skin, possible hazel eyes, dark hair, and a facial structure with prominent cheekbones. Ancestry estimates included Eastern European and Latino components, a crucial detail. Aging the composite to mid-40s or 50s accounted for time's passage, assuming an age near Christie's 25 or older. Private showings to family and friends yielded no sparks of recognition. The November 1st, 2017 press conference broadcast the images nationwide, media outlets amplifying the call for tips. Viewers scrutinized the sketches, comparing to acquaintances, but silence followed. Then the paradigm shift. The Golden State Killer's arrest in April 2018 via genetic genealogy. Vince's email to investigators echoed public excitement. Could this apply here? Parabon, already engaged, prepared the sample for GEDmatch, a public database where users upload ancestry kits for family tree building. C.C. Moore's expertise shown in the reverse genealogy. Matches to second or third cousins provided branches. She traced upward to common ancestors, then downward through generations. Public records, births, marriages, obituaries filled gaps. The Puerto Rican ancestry flag from phenotyping guided her to that newspaper article. Rowe discussing his father's heritage, his love for traditional dishes like arroz con gandules. Social media confirmed connections. The half-sisters' GED match profile sealed the genetic tie. Wilson's team, learning of Rowe's local celebrity status, pieced together his 1992 life. Proximity, venues, no record. It was a stunning revelation. The killer hadn't fled. He'd flourished. The undercover operation on May 31, 2018, at the elementary school event, was meticulously planned. The female officer, blending as an attendee, initiated light conversation, compliments on his set, casual chit-chat. As Rowe sipped water, chewed gum, she noted his discards. Post-event, the trash retrieval was swift, items bagged for the lab. The chewing gum in particular yielded pristine DNA, matching the crime scene profile unequivocally. Interrogation on June 25th exposed cracks. Denials crumbled when confronted with the stalker theory and car details. His celica, white with potential louvers, aligned too closely. Arrest and charges followed. The guilty plea in 2019, a pragmatic avoidance of capital punishment. Life without parole, plus 60 to 120 years, ensured permanence. Rowe's 2020 petition stirred old wounds. His claims of innocence and coercion, weight loss, intestinal woes weakening his resolve, met skepticism. The alternate narrative, a consensual bar hookup, then an unknown killer striking, request for retesting the cutting board, toaster, clothing aimed to introduce doubt. Judge Dennis Reneker's April 2022 ruling was firm. The evidence's weight, including DNA, precluded reasonable doubt of innocence. In reflection, this case underscores resilience, Vince's unyielding pursuit, Wilson's commitment, Moore's genealogical wizardry. For Lancaster, healing began with truth, though scars remain. Christy's legacy endures in memories of her teaching passion, a reminder that even in darkness, light persists. As we approach the final layers of this tale, ponder the what-ifs. What if genealogy hadn't advanced? What if the gum had been overlooked? These pivots of fate define true crime. Thanks for sticking with Dark Case Desk through this intricate narrative. Comment below, how do you think genetic genealogy will shape future investigations? Like if it fascinates you, and subscribe for our next deep dive. With the judge's gavel echoing the finality of denial in that April 2022 courtroom, the chapter on Raymond Rowe's futile bid for freedom closed, leaving behind a community forever altered by the revelation of his double life. But justice, though served, often leaves lingering questions about the human cost. The ripples of trauma that extend far beyond the headlines, the quiet acts of remembrance that honor a life stolen too soon, and the technological tides that continue to reshape how we pursue the truth in the face of enduring mysteries. This is Dark Case Desk, where we chase the shadows of the past to illuminate the present. If this exploration of hidden horrors and hard-won resolutions has gripped you, hit that like button to show your support, comment on what aspect of this case lingers with you most, and subscribe for more riveting, true crime tales that delve into the heart of darkness. As we conclude this story, let's turn our focus to the enduring legacy of Christy Mirack, the unbreakable spirit of her family, and the profound shifts in investigative paradigms that her case helped pioneer. In the wake of Roe's incarceration, the Mirack family found themselves navigating a new landscape of closure, mingled with sorrow. Vince Mirack, who had carried the torch of justice for over a quarter century, described the moment of the guilty plea as a bittersweet dawn, a relief that washed over him like a long-withheld breath, yet tempered by the absence of his mother and the irreplaceable void left by his sister. He had spent countless hours poring over news clippings, emailing investigators, and speaking at press conferences, his voice a steady anchor in the storm of uncertainty. Now, with the perpetrator named and sentenced, Vince turned his energy toward healing. Family gatherings in Shamokin took on a renewed poignancy. Holidays, once overshadowed by the December tragedy, became opportunities to share stories of Christy's infectious laugh, her stubborn streak that made her the undisputed champion of board games, and her unwavering commitment to her students. Photographs of her, smiling in her high school yearbook, posing with siblings in the family living room, standing proudly at her university graduation, adorned walls and mantels, silent tributes to a life full of promise. Vince often reflected on how the case's resolution allowed him to reclaim memories untainted by the quest for answers. Moments like childhood summers in Shamokin's wooded hills, where Christy organized treasure hunts, her creativity turning ordinary afternoons into adventures. The broader family circle, too, felt the shift. Cousins and aunts who had grown up alongside Christy in that close-knit Northumberland County community organized annual memorials, quiet vigils held on the anniversary of her birth rather than her death, emphasizing celebration over loss. These events drew old friends from Millersville University, former colleagues from Rohrerstown Elementary, and even some of her students, now adults with families of their own. One such student, who had been in her 6th grade class that fateful year, shared how Christy's encouragement had sparked a love for reading that led to a career in literature. "She made us feel seen," the former pupil recalled, her voice thick with emotion during a gathering. "In a world that can be so chaotic, she created a space of safety and wonder." These testimonials wove a tapestry of influence, illustrating how Christy's passion for education rippled outward, touching lives in ways that endured beyond her 25 years. Her mother, though gone since 2002, was honored in these remembrances. Vince often spoke of her resilience, how she battled cancer with the same quiet strength Christy had shown in her teaching, refusing to let illness dim her hope for justice. Lancaster County, the setting of both the crime and Roe's unmasked existence, underwent its own process of reckoning. The revelation that DJ Freeze, a fixture at local events, had harbored such a secret sent shockwaves through social circles. Wedding planners who had booked him for years revisited old contracts with a shiver. Nightclub owners scrubbed his name from past lineups, and residents whispered about near misses. Had they danced to his music unknowing? Community forums buzzed with discussions, not of fear, but of vigilance and unity. Schools like Rohrerstown Elementary implemented scholarships in Christy's name, awarding them to aspiring teachers who embodied her dedication. The principal's office, once Harry Goodman's domain, now featured a plaque commemorating her contributions, a small but meaningful nod to her impact. Harry himself, having sought therapy to cope with the trauma of discovery, became an advocate for mental health support among educators, sharing his story in local workshops about recognizing signs of distress in colleagues. The condominium complex in East Lampeter Township, site of the tragedy, saw subtle changes too: enhanced lighting, community watch programs, measures born from reflection rather than paranoia. Roe's life behind bars offered little in the way of further insight. Incarcerated in a Pennsylvania state prison, he maintained a low profile, his days a far cry from the spotlight of turntables and cheering crowds. Reports from correctional sources painted him as compliant but withdrawn, participating in mandatory programs without enthusiasm. His petition's failure in 2022, where he claimed a consensual encounter and subsequent frame-up, was dissected in legal circles as a desperate gambit. Judge Dennis Reineker's ruling emphasized the irrefutable DNA evidence, the totality of which left no room for doubt. Roe's health claims, weight loss of 25 kilograms, chronic issues, were deemed insufficient to overturn a plea entered knowingly. No appeals followed immediately, though whispers of future filings persisted, a testament to the system's allowances for review. For the district attorney's office, the case stood as a benchmark of perseverance. Christine Wilson often citing it in speeches about the intersection of old evidence and new science. Delving deeper into the forensic journey that led to this point reveals the meticulous artistry of modern investigations. The DNA from the carpet, preserved since 1992, was a time capsule of truth, its secrets unlocked by advancements that seemed science fiction at the time of the crime. Parabon Nanolabs' snapshot phenotyping, which extrapolated physical traits from genetic code, wasn't just a tool, it was a bridge between biology and artistry. Scientists analyzed markers for melanin levels to predict skin tone, eye color genes for hues like hazel or brown, and craniofacial predictors for bone structure. The resulting composite, aged algorithmically to account for decades, captured an essence that, while not photographic, sparked recognition in the abstract. When released at the November 1st, 2017 press conference, it circulated through newspapers and online forums, a digital wanted poster that invited public scrutiny. The pivot to genetic genealogy amplified this precision. GED Match, a platform born from genealogical curiosity, became an unintended ally in justice. Users uploading ancestry kits, seeking lost relatives or ethnic origins, unwittingly contributed to a database ripe for investigative mining. C.C. Moore's reverse engineering of family trees was a masterclass in patience. Starting with cousin matches, she cross-referenced census records from the 1940s and 50s, marriage licenses from the 1970s, and obituaries from the 2000s. Social media profiles provided modern anchors, posts about family reunions, tagged photos revealing resemblances. The Puerto Rican connection, flagged by phenotyping, directed her to that pivotal newspaper article, where Roe's culinary passions betrayed his heritage. His father's migration story, woven into the piece, confirmed the ancestral thread. The half-sister's profile, a voluntary upload, provided the genetic confirmation, her markers aligning with the crime scene sample in patterns too precise for coincidence. The sting operation that secured the direct match exemplified undercover finesse. On May 31, 2018, at the elementary school event, the atmosphere was festive. Children laughing, music playing, a stark contrast to the operation's gravity. The female officer, dressed casually to blend, approached Roe with practiced ease, commenting on his playlist to draw him into conversation. That beat drop was perfect, she might have said, eliciting a nod or smile. As he hydrated with a water bottle, sipped from a cup, and discarded his chewing gum, she cataloged each item mentally. Post-event, the retrieval was surgical. Gloves on, evidence bags ready, ensuring chain of custody. The lab analysis comparing mitochondrial and nuclear DNA yielded the 100% match, a scientific exclamation point. Interrogation dynamics on June 25th unveiled psychological layers. Detectives armed with genealogy charts and timelines started softly. Routine questions about 1992 routines before escalating to specifics. Mention of the stalker reports tightened his posture. The white car query prompted the Celica admission, his voice perhaps faltering. Denials persisted until the DNA bombshell, though even then, no confession spilled forth. The theory of obsession, stalking born from nightclub glimpses, routine surveillance leading to the timed attack, remained inferred, a narrative stitched from evidence rather than admission. Christy's story, in its fullness, transcends the crime. Her journey from Shamokin's secure embrace to Millersville's academic halls embodied aspiration. Classmates recalled her as the organizer of study groups, her notes meticulously color-coded, her enthusiasm for pedagogy infectious. At Rohrerstown, her classroom was a haven, walls adorned with student art, desks arranged for collaboration, lessons infused with real-world relevance. She taught not just curriculum but life skills, empathy through literature discussions, curiosity via science experiments. Parents sent thank you notes for her extra efforts, like staying late to tutor struggling pupils. The roommate's routine, so pivotal to the timeline, highlighted everyday vulnerabilities. Leaving at 7, chatting with the neighbor at 7:15, hearing the scream, details that, in retrospect, haunted. The dog walker's sighting, the iced car window Harry noticed, mundane observations elevated to clues. As the case influenced policy, district attorneys nationwide adopted genealogy protocols, balancing privacy with pursuit. Wilson's office trained on ethical uploads, ensuring consent where possible. Vince advocated for funding cold case units, his testimony before lawmakers emphasizing families' plight. In Shamokin, trails Christy hiked as a child now bear plaques in her honor, paths where she dreamed of teaching. Lancaster's nightlife, once Rose domain, evolved with safety apps and awareness campaigns, subtle nods to prevention without overt lessons. Rose's cultural blend, Puerto Rican recipes shared in interviews, contrasted his hidden malice, a reminder of duality. His performances, soundtracking joys now viewed through betrayal's lens. The autopsy's grim details, trauma patterns suggesting prolonged struggle, underscored Christie's fight, a silent heroism. Vince's email, post-Golden State Killer arrest accelerated the genealogy push, a citizen's spark igniting official action. The billboard's impact, though tip-heavy without breakthroughs, fostered community dialogue. Harry's therapy journey inspired peer support in schools. Christie's funeral, with its crowded pews, symbolized collective loss. The phenotyping's limitations, environmental factors unaccounted, highlighted science's bounds. Moore's tree building, hours over records, exemplified dedication. The undercover chat's banal topics masked high stakes. Rose's plea, life sentence plus terms, ensured no release. The petition's health claims, dismissed, closed loopholes. Legacy, Christie's kindness lives in inspired educators. Thanks for journeying through this epic tale on Dark Case Desk. Like if moved, comment thoughts, subscribe for more. Where from? Share, it unites us.